Our kingdom is a very wonderful but very difficult thing to fully understand. Well, as you know, I keep telling you that we are in the beginning days of a knowing and in the middle days of believing. So believing is very, very strong throughout the planet. And the knowing is the first steps for just a few people who have the courage and the strength to want to use their own energy forces to try to understand the principles of life. Now our kingdom is divided into what we call 4 divisions. We have to understand the drawing from here down. In Eastern words, it's called Maya. It has to do with life powers, it has to do with instinct, it has to do with games of the body, it has to do with sexual drives, it has to do with all your wants in the physical world. Anything that pleases the body, anything that will cause you to perform in a very strong way to collect things through what we call instinctive drives is Maya. Now we have another section that is referred to in Eastern teachings as Manas. This is from the throat to the top of the head. Manas, which means, the word means the lower mind, the mental capacities of desire. Here's where you're cunning, you're very clever, you run wild with thrills of emotional entanglements, you bounce from Maya and Manas back and forth, and you can become a very happy person, a very sad person, a very forgiving person, and a very mean person. Then we have another section that is from the top of the head to the golden man. This in the East is called the Buddha. In this part of the country, we would refer it to the Christ. It's been called by many names. This is where you have liberated state of mind, a free mind, a mind that searches for truth, a mind that is not controlled by other minds. It is the great knower beginning. It is the great movement of consciousness to become individualized as a being of its own self. Then we have the last part of the kingdom, which goes from the golden man to the atom man. This is called Atma. We use Sanskrit words because they are more inclusive and say the story better, but then you have to explain it using English language, which does not have the words to tell the whole story. Here is basically where you know the spiritual part of yourself, where you wake up to the Godhead. You become the last man, Adam, a quickening spirit. This is where the life force is that feeds the phenomena known as the atom world. Now we have to learn about these different states of consciousness. We have to learn about their grouping. We have to become a worker in our own kingdom. Most people want what they want, and most of the wants is collecting things. We either collect things or we collect people. There's always collecting. Always, why? For a power factor of control. Each division has different points of view because of the rates of vibration and the color and the substance from event to event to event. These divisions are centers. They must be understood. They're doorways of consciousness. We must make the personal effort. You have to make your own effort. If you're going to individualize yourself as a free thinker and not be a group thinker, then it's up to you. And this is the next step. We must become individualized as a free thinker. Man should first try to change his nature from a selfish nature to a kind and gentle nature. And he should put himself under personal willpower and self-discipline. You have to do it. I do not lay these things on you. If I did, then you become my slave. I become a ruler over you. And all you then learn is how to submit yourself to another man's rule. I will not permit that in the Lotus Center. Now, this kingdom of ours is a fantastic computer system. It is the tree in the garden. This is the tree. Whether you can understand it or not, it is the tree. Above here, everything is in a beautiful state. It just is. Down here, we fall into the good and evil aspect of things. It is true that each one of those sinners is the apple in the Garden of Eden. It is also the fruit of good and evil. The stalk is your spine, and the flowers we go into are what we call the flowers of Tibet. The apples in the Garden of Eden, the bell-shaped flowers of Tibet. Ezekiel's wheels of the Bible. When these energy fields no longer project out this way as attraction and repulsion to states of mind, positive and negative, good and evil, likes and dislikes, these go back and set in around the spine and spin. They become wheels. Ezekiel's wheels. Wheels within wheels within wheels. Read about it in the Bible. Ezekiel knew all about it. They are the jewels of the Lord. They shine in luster like a diamond, and they have facets to them. Each one of them has this. And then, of course, they become the suns. They shine bright in your kingdom, like a great galaxy, a cosmos. In the sun, each one of these centers becomes a sun, around which sort of a solar system, and on into a microcosm is created. Now, the first two centers that we look at, the red one and the green one, these are the serpent fires of earth, and they deal with form, vitality, light from the sun. The third and fourth deal with personality development. The fifth one deals with the mind, the power of the mind. The sixth, the mental eye of the human, the pineal gland, or the eye of the Lord, the God, the Master. And the seventh, of course, is going through to make what we call the operative forces that make the instrument a usable piece of equipment. And this, what I'm showing you, is a piece of equipment. We are much greater than what you're looking at. That's the reason when you ask me, I'll tell you, yes, Audley will pass this way but once. And you, the personality, will pass this way but once. But that which gives life to that form that has a name, it will continue to come and go many, many times to build what we call a living soul pattern. Now, let us get into what we call the first center here. It has to do with procreation. You'll notice that, you can see it has 4 petals on it. This is the beginning of the equal arm cross. It has the power, the law that governs it is the power to replenish the species. The sound that can be identified, and you know that you've entered into it, is a nightingale singing, or sometimes when it's a little bit too slow or too fast, it'll sound like crickets rubbing their legs, cricking. And in some of the literature of what we call the secret doctrine, they say that the song of the nightingale will soon be over. What does that mean? Well, it merely means that this center is going to swing around to the throat center, and procreation will no longer be through a sexual type relationship, but through an intellectual creative ability, holding the form, creating the sound, and stepping into a new form. Yes, it is definitely coming. The sexual organs will gradually disappear. It's going to take a while, but it's coming. The expression of this is the physical form. The color, of course, is the 4 petals, the red cross or the serpent fire at the base of the tree in the Garden of Eden. The work, atomic structure is fed by this energy of the red ray. We have to have it in order to have energy. We have to have it in order to be forceful. And on some of the great masters who you may get to meet from time to time, you'll find that this center has turned to a red center. That means that such a person no longer creates from physical relationships, but from intellectual relationships. Those individuals generally do not come out into the public to be known. But those of us who have to come out into the world have to take on the same type of vehicle that everyone else wears in order to teach the movement of consciousness through these streams of what we call the kingdom. Now, as this goes into the body from the sun, it turns into what we call a rose tree. And a rose tree is all your nervous system with little globules of pink going out, like moving, continually moving along all the nerves of your body. And if your body, when some person looks at you psychically and you are pink with a lot of these little bubbles going on, then you're in the pink of condition. If not, then you have what is called a breakdown someplace in this great force of life going through you. This is what we call the spleen center. That is, it energizes the spleen. Has 6 petals with the 7th in the center. Now the spleen center, the law that governs this is the balancing of the animal energy of the 7 rays. This is the magnetic forces that come off of planet Earth as it spins 1,000 miles an hour. The best way, if you're really tired and really got a problem, you'll curl up with the spleen to the east, head to the north, and like a little baby, crawl up, just wind up in knees and hands all tied up with the spleen to the east, head to the north. And you'll find that you can replenish yourself rather quickly. Now the sound is like an ocean. And you can take your hand, cup your ears, or get a shell or any kind of a hollow resonant, put it over your ears, and you'll hear this ocean sign. It's coming from the spleen. It's coming from this center right here. All right, now there's one question you should ask, but most people never think about it. And you'll notice that these are in a straight and narrow line. This one is off to the side. Why? There was a day when we was on all fours walking along like the ape. But when we moved out of that level of consciousness, this center moved to the side so that we could stand straight and still pull the energy into our body. Now the song or the expression of life here is expressed through basically an orange, beautiful light, a healing light. It does have the spectrum colors. But if you want to stimulate yourself, energize yourself, put an orange light on you for 30, 40 minutes, or even sleep under it. It energizes the animal magnetism and gives your body a lot more forcefulness. Never, never, never meditate on this center. As far back as I can find in history, even in the time tunnel, you must not concentrate on this center. If you upset this center, you upset your whole body. The whole physical form can be really hurt. So don't meditate on it. Don't try to do anything to it except balance it by doing what I've said. Lay facing the east with your head to the north and curl up like a little baby curls up at birth. And let this beautiful, what is called magnetic forces of the planet, rebuild your system. Now the next is what we call the navel or the life power center. And the law, of course, that governs that might is right. Now the navel, or our solar plex, our tummy, the sound of this is sort of a silver cymbal or sometimes like a flute, according to how fast it speeds. It spins round and around and around, and of course it changes as you begin to develop consciousness and become a son, then it changes altogether. But we're talking about basically things that can happen right now for most people. This still is under Midas right, the strength of form, instinct, the action to survive. This is where we find a great deal of physical power. And haven't you ever heard people say, I got a gut feeling about it? Well, this is where you get through this doorway. Many people say, you find God in your stomach. You do. You hear them, even in our Orthodox churches. God's here. God's here. I feel God here. God's here. I feel Him. Well, you stimulate this life power center, and you're going to feel the life force. Can't help it. And many of us still are using that particular center to function with, because it's the automatic brain system of the physical body. If you understand your kingdom, man, it's really nice. It really is. How you're put together. This force can also make you very sick at your stomach. You get emotionally upset. You can't have your way. You get mad. Oh, I hurt. Sometimes you can even regurgitate. It will cause you to do that. We develop anger and lust and depression at this level. You say, well, why am I so depressed? Well, hell, you let all your stuff go right down here. You got all mixed up. Things wasn't going good. Now, the third is our heart center. Has 12 petals. This is where our emotional religion, pie in the sky, worshiping symbols and personalities comes from. Right here in the heart. There's 12 leaves to it. This is the zodiacal wheel. And when you can sit and look at a person, and you can see all of the characters that are under zodiacal influence. And there'll always be one or two stronger than the others. We birth ourselves under certain signs to force ourselves to do certain things. The sound is the tinkle bells or the gong sound. Have you ever heard tinkle bells going tinkle, 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 walking down the street, and all of a sudden, where'd that come from? Or have you ever heard boom, boom? These things can come into you when you begin to open up to what we call consciousness beyond the physical phenomena. This is the emotional area. This is where you have your zing to personal awareness, the feelings that can get very high and very low. Our emotional swing is extremely great, back and forth. Very seldom can we hold our emotions stable. We get real happy, we get real sad. We can get terribly upset and mad, or we can fall in love head over heels. This is the center that brings that about. It is the highest of the animal force center. The Passover center that is called Passover by many different religions. What does it mean? It means that when we begin to get some control of our sexual life, our physical power life, our emotional life, there is a Passover of Maya into Manas. We're moving into what is called the field of intellect, a beginning of the creative use of mind. Naturally, all of us are a part of that right now. The work of this center, of course, is to have feeling nature, to have sympathy or compassion. Compassion is the best because when you sympathize with someone, you take on their problem. But if you have compassion, you try to understand, you try to help. But you still will have sympathy in this center. You can sympathize with a person so much that you'll take on their problem. Now the fourth center is the throat. It has 16 petals. The law that governs it is eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, the old Mosaic law. Remember, what you think about becomes. And if you're going to live by the eye for an eye, you will lose your eye. You can't live by the laws and be an exception. You have to pay the penalty. God's laws are exact and cannot be denied by any human being. Even God himself can't change the laws now. They've all set. The location is the third cervical in the throat. Bamboo shoots thrill in the ear. Have you ever heard? Have you ever heard that? My God, where'd that come from? Come right out of your throat center. You're either angry, you're either anxious, you're worried, you've been disappointed, you're going to get even with somebody. It'll happen. You'll hear that high-pitched ring hit your ear. And when it does, you know exactly you're doing something wrong. You'll hear voices, you'll hear music, you can hear rumbling, you can hear night sounds, water rushing, sounds of bees, according to the way how fast it's spinning. And all of your imaginations come out of this center, basically. Now you can imagine out of this center and take it down to your emotional center and become very emotional over an image of your mind. And you'll swear, boy, that is a revelation. I've had a great, great God revelation. And all you did was create it yourself. This center develops personality, creative ability. You become clairvoyant. You can travel in etheric and astral worlds. It will affect your voice, the way you express yourself, and, of course, the color is blue. The fifth center is right between the eyes, right here. You'll see it right here. This is Master Jesus' great gift to the world, that man can become out of the servitude of being controlled by other people. Man can be free. Free will. The will to think as an individual, to become a Christ-conscious person. In order to do that, you have to individualize yourself as a free thinker and let no one control your thought processes. Do your own thinking. Okay, so you make a bunch of mistakes. Who cares? You learn when you make mistakes. The sound, what would be the sound here? Trumpets. And when you hear the trumpet sound, the walls of Jericho come tumbling down, the darkness. Those are the softest, most beautiful sounds of trumpets that you will ever hear. What a beautiful sound it is. And the dark walls come tumbling down. Personal control of life action. The 96 petals in this center, that means 96 levels or attractions and repulsions of consciousness. The golden ring that we talk about is here. The dark center is here. The brilliant light, the star, way off in the center is here. It's sort of a indigo color. You become clairvoyant. Visions, see in the distance, see through people's minds. Very impressive when that opens up, because this little eye that sits right here on that particular gland is like a great force that flows out here and sets a lens. But unfortunately, people open it up and play games with it to become ego important, and it causes a lot of hurt. We should not do that. The responsibility at this center makes you individually responsible for what you do. And you have to pay for it. This is a tremendous step towards self-realization and freedom, but it also carries with it a very difficult job of your own personal unfolding consciousness. You can destroy yourself or you can become the divine being. Here is where the religion of the person begins to search for truth, begins to think, wants to walk away from those things that are holding them back from, well, you just can't know that. That's too far above You're not ready to know this grand thing. Well, sure, there's certain things that we're not ready for. But I can assure you that if you can ask the question, that the answer should be given to you. Now, the sixth one is where we individualize ourselves and cross over into the higher states of consciousness. The Christ, the Lord, the Buddha, the Master, whatever you want to call it. Here's where you begin to know. Top of the head. Right here. There's 1,000 leaves around here. Why would there be 1,000 leaves there? Do you ever ask yourself? Because there's 1,000 laws that govern the atomic physical phenomena. That's the reason. There's 1,000 laws. And when we learn these 1,000 laws, the center opens up, called the pearly gates. Now, a teacher can take you through the pearly gates. And you may not know all the 1,000 laws, but you are then a disciple of a teacher who knows the way and takes you through and speeds up what is called evolution. We call the 1,000 petals of the lotus in the East. One of the reasons that we named our center the Lotus Center. We want your flower to open up. We don't want you capped. Those of you who get psychic enough will be able to see this on people, and you may even wonder what it is. You have a head, and you'll see sort of a cap on them. Must be a holy person. Even the Jewish people put a cap on them. They see this. Psychically, they see this. So they put a cap on. Well, this caps you off. You can't see. You can't know. You're capped off. You can't go beyond. You're forced to stay in the tomb that you were buried in. This is a tomb. You died to come here. You don't realize it, but you did. Because you're much greater. You're way up here. But when you stepped into this encasement, all of this knowledge left you. The sound here is thunder, air valve, hissing of a snake, things of this nature. Haven't you ever heard somebody say, you take the kingdom by storm? Sure you do. When you start moving through this part consciously, you're going to hear a rumbling. And then there's going to be flashes of lights, bing, like lightning. And you're going to shake. It's going to scare you. Because in the early days, I didn't know what was going on. I thought my head was coming apart. Rumble. Take the kingdom by storm. Yes. When the storm is over, the sunlight shines through. God within you, the light shines into your consciousness. And you have taken your kingdom by storm. The hissing of the snake, the air valve, you will hear those things. This is the serpent climbing the tree. Getting ready to go through into the knowing and the known. It's generally purple in color, except the center is generally pretty much like the heart center. It has 12 leaves sitting right on the top of the head. And these are the great 12 tribes of Israel. And when you unfold the 12 tribes right here, you become an all-knowing person, an understanding person, a person that knows what life's all about. Karma is then no longer stored up for life's actions to come. You're beginning to live what is called karma-free. If you want Jesus' words, your sowing and your reaping then is done at the same time of the sowing. You live free. We become liberated. We develop a consciousness that has non-resistance to it. And we have what is called non-attachments. You have everything you want. You have all the enjoyment that you wish to have to make your life a pleasant, wonderful adventure while you're on the planet. Nice partner, mate to love, to hold, to cherish. Go out, have nice food, nice homes, nice cars, take nice trips. Everything seems to work for you. A very enjoyable time while you stay in the physical body on planet Earth. But you're attached to nothing. If you need to give it up, let it go. God bless. Thank you, Father. What you got down the street for me? Something better? Wonderful. The seventh is no sound, but absolute peace that passes understanding, the way Jesus spoke of it. It is the light that has no light. It is the darkness that has no darkness. It is the beautiful state of the sound called Om. It is moving completely through here, all the way up the straight and narrow path as Jesus described it, into the center of the soul, the oversoul, the perfect pattern, the state of immortality. I know I shall never die. Do you know that? To die is to lose consciousness. I know when I leave my body, I'm not going to die. I've already been there and go there. And we go into the center of the great supreme outbreathing of all consciousness. And when you can go there regularly, you have reached immortality. So the seventh is to go through the top of the head, travel a straight and narrow path, through the many, many divisions, and I don't have time now to talk about all those. I was going to. And go on through. When I say I know about it, I mean I have consciously obtained some knowledge there. There are many others that I don't know about. So don't let me say that I know everything. I don't. But I know the path to get into this. And when I leave this and return back to the ring of the cells in which you and I are made in the image and likeness, and we're all the same here. There's no human being that is not in the same image and likeness at this level. God bless you.